Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ilarion and this is JavaScript web automation course. So today we're gonna learn how to debug our code. To be more specific, how to debug JavaScript, and then we'll learn how to debug Playwright tests. But to be honest, these debugging skills that we're gonna learn today are applied to any language, any framework, any IDE or code editor that you're using. So it's like universal based knowledge that you have to know, the debugging. All right, so today we're covering two topics, debugging tests, and then we're gonna review the traces in Playwright Trace Viewer. Okay, so for the lesson plan, today we're gonna spend a few minutes reviewing console methods, then we're gonna learn how to debug code in VS Code. We're gonna learn what is breakpoint, how to step through the code, how to inspect all or evaluate variables, how to set conditional breakpoints, etc. Then we're gonna review what options Playwright gives us for debugging tests. We're gonna review the Playwright extension again, Trace Viewer, and then as a bonus point for people who are using Jetbrains IDE instead of VS Code, we're gonna do the same in Jetbrains IDE. All right, so first of all, what is debugging? Simply put, debugging is a process of finding and fixing bugs. That's it. That's what this word stands for, debugging. Today we're gonna find and fix bugs. Okay, so first thing, let's quickly review what options console object gives us. So how can we log something into our code? Okay, so first example is simply, you might probably have already seen that, is just login. Console log, console warning, console error. So the log gives you the normal log, warning gives you usually the yellow log, and error the red log. Let's quickly run it. So I hit this button and then run and debug. All right, so there we go. Seems like nothing has happened, but let's open up the terminal. All right, let's run again. And here we should see some debug console, right? So in debug console, we see that product sum is 100, then too expensive is 100 for the warning, and wrong sum is for the error also 100. And you see like a strange thing that VS Code logs the warning in the same color as the error. I don't know why they did it this way, yeah, but that's how it goes. Usually the warning is in yellow. All right, let's move on. Let's add some fun to these logs. So here how you can do the colorful logs. Just add some colors to your logs. So let's run this thing, and you see like different colors, very fun. Another thing you can use is library called colorize. If I'm not mistaken, you can find it on npm, colorize npm package. All right, next thing I wanted to show you is the log point. Let's say we have some function here, and yeah, we want to, let's say, console log something in this function. We want to console log the product. Product, like this, product. All right, and now I'm gonna run this thing. Okay, so it logged the product in the console, and it actually logged 3 products, bread, milk, and egg, because here I called this function 3 times. Okay, and you see I have this console log put here, but like usually I don't want to push this console log to the remote repository for other developers to see. I just want to have this console log on my local machine, not in GitHub. So how can I add a log which is not visible to other developers? Here I hit right click, then add log point, and then I do the same, product, and then product, like this for the variables. I have to wrap them. like this. All right, so here I set the breakpoint, and now let me run the same code again. Okay, so again, it logs the product 1, 2, 3. Fine. And let's move to the next thing. Sometimes you'll have problems with logging some complex nested objects like this one, like this product. So this product has first level of nesting, then it has a nested object which has an object inside of it, and then one more nested and an object inside of it, and it can have even more, like some array here. And let's quickly run this thing. So first we're gonna run it as a normal console log, like this. Okay, so you see it logs the object in one line. So this is hard to read, and there is a better way how we can log the objects, and it's the JSON.stringify. So you can put JSON.stringify, then pass the product here, your object, then null for replacer, just put null here, and then 4 for the spacing. Let's run this thing. And now we logged this object in a very beautiful way. Okay, Okay, so here it was in one line, and here I have it printed beautifully in multiple lines with 4 spaces. Like here I put 4 spaces, and now I have indentation here, 4 spaces. All right, next thing I wanted to show you is console table. Console table. So let's say we have multiple products that have similar like structure, similar fields, name, price, currency. So all they have the same fields. And now I want to log the products. I can do it with console table, and here is how it looks. Boom. All right, I close the terminal. Let me open up the terminal. Okay, and here we go. Here we have the table of products. Just zoom out. Yeah, and it's very useful method when you want to compare a few objects and you want to see what's inside for the fields. All right, and another way is if we want to log only name and price, like name and price here, I can put the second argument to the table method and just enumerate the column names. Let's run again. Okay, and here I have a smaller table which contains only 2 columns. Okay, and the last thing is timers. So let's say you want to measure how fast is your code, how many milliseconds it takes to run your code. And for that we can use the timers. So here is some code that is executed, and we want to measure how much time this code will take. Okay, and first thing we have to do is we have to call the console.time, put the label here, and then we have to call console.end, increment sum, the same label as here. Okay, and that's it. Let's run this thing. Okay, I love it. And the terminal. Yep, so it says that increment time, increment sum took like 800 milliseconds. So that many iterations took 800 milliseconds. All right, let's move on. That was it for console log. So these are the most useful methods that you're gonna use for debugging your tests or your code, whatever. Log point in VS Code I've shown you, right? It's the same thing as console log, but it's built in VS Code. You can just hit here somewhere add log point, and this thing will not be pushed to remote repository. So this thing is kept only in your local code on your machine. All right. pretty print JSON, again reminding you, pretty print with JSON.stringify. So use this thing and it will pretty print the objects just not on one line but on multiple lines. Now let's move on to the real debugging. So first thing we're gonna learn is breakpoints. All right, switching back to the code. So let's first figure out what this code does. So here we have two functions. Function calculate total price, which accepts the product and then checks if product is valid. If product is not valid, then it returns 0. So it returns price 0. If product is valid, then it calculates the product price and product tax %. Then the next function is checking if product is valid. So what it does is it checks if there is no product passed, then it returns false. Or if product price is not present or it's 0, then it returns false. Or if tax % is 0 or there is no tax %, then it returns false. And in addition to that, it logs the log product is invalid and logs the product here. So two simple functions. One is calling another. So we accept the product, then it goes to product valid. It goes inside of this function is product valid. Then it checks all these conditions. If these conditions satisfy, then it gets inside of this block for console error and returning false. If these conditions do not satisfy, they are not true, then it goes to this return. All right, so this code is not perfect, but this is just enough for us to learn the debugging. But again, this is absolutely not perfect code. All right, and here we have three objects: bread, milk, and egg. So we have three different objects with different names, prices, tax %. And here we call this calculate total price function with three different products. So we pass bread, milk, and egg, and we log that to the console. All right, let's quickly run it. Opening up the terminal, the console. All right, how do I close this thing? Like this. So here it logged that product bread, total price bread is 60. Let me just, oops. Come on, I love this VS Code, like this. Then price for milk is 35, price for egg is -5. So it looks like we have some bugs here because let's think about it. Price for bread is 50 and tax % is 10. So 50 plus 5%, sorry, plus 10%, which is 5, should be 55, but we have 60, right? 60, this is not right. So the result here should be 55. So we have some bug in our code, somewhere over here. Then we pass milk with price 25 and tax % 10. 10% out of 25 is 2.5, but in the result we have 35, and instead we should have 27.5. All right, so there's definitely some bug in the calculation, and this is really strange because here for egg we have -5. -5 is tax % -10. So it looks like we don't have validation for tax % to be minus value, like negative value, okay? So looks like we don't have validation here, and looks like the calculations are wrong. So there are some bugs in the code, and we will try to debug those. First of all, let me remove the log point, and now let's put some, like, first thing that comes to our mind, like after we learn the console logs, is we can console log everything, console log everything what we need. Like we can console log the product, we can console log product price, tax %, so we can console log everything, but this is not the way we want to debug our code. So let's use a more advanced technique called breakpoints. So here, let me set a breakpoint over here, remove log point, and here I will set breakpoint. So the red circle, and here one more breakpoint, here one more, here one more. So I'm just setting some breakpoints, and let me run this code again, run and debug. Okay, so what happened? What happened is that code execution stopped at this line where I set the breakpoint. So breakpoint is literally stop my code at this point, so breakpoint, right? So it stopped code execution at this point, and now I can check what's the value of the product. For example, here on the left, I can check what's the product value for the product. Let me just, okay. So here I can check that I have bread, price 50, tax % 10. All right, that's fine. Then I can continue. Here's the button for continue. So play, continue. I continue, and I see that the code goes inside of this function. So first my breakpoint was set here. I clicked play, and it went inside of this function. So this function is executed, and the code execution jumps to this line. Oops. And on this line, I have product, and I can check it on the left. Like what's the value for the product, price, and tax %. In case something's wrong here, I can check it on the left. All right. So for breakpoints, okay, let's jump one more. Okay, we're jumping one more, and it doesn't get to this breakpoint because looks like validation has passed successfully, and it didn't get to line 10 and 11. It didn't get here, so code execution jumped to this line, return true. All right, and then I hit play again, and it jumps here. Okay, so this is for breakpoints, and now the same, like my function is called 3 times. So first time with the bread, second time with the milk, and now I have milk here. So I clicked play, it finished executing this function, then moved to this line, started execution of this calculate total price with milk, and again my breakpoint is hit on this line. And then again I jump through, and now I have the egg. Egg is the last execution of the function with the egg. And again, I'm jumping through the code, and on the left I can see what are the values passed to my function. All right, and this is it. Execution finished. We logged everything to the console. Perfect. Now let's check how to step through the code. So how to step through the code, like how to move between the lines. Again, we have these breakpoints, and let's say I remove all these breakpoints, and I just said, okay, why it's not removing? Huh, that's strange. Add breakpoint. Okay, love VS Code. Okay, looks like it removed breakpoint, but let's check here on the left. Okay, yeah, it just didn't refresh the icon here. Okay, so let's say I have only one breakpoint, and I click run and debug. I jump to this line, and now I have multiple options. So first option that we already learned is the play button. Play button, just we tell the debugger to jump to the next breakpoint. So this is continue, jump to the next breakpoint. So if we have breakpoint here, it will jump directly here. It will not jump anywhere like in this function or on this line. No, it will jump to the next breakpoint. And the same for 3 products. And the egg Boom. So jump through the code, and now let's say I remove this breakpoint and run again. So only a single breakpoint here. And now I have second option. Second option is to step over. Step over is like step one down, one line down. Okay. So I hit this step over and it goes to the next line in my code. So it doesn't go inside of here because validation is correct. So it didn't fail on validation. It doesn't go to this line. It goes directly to this line. And the same for all products. So let's add some more logic here. So const sum equals product price plus tax %, and then I return the sum, just so that we have more lines in this function. And I'm gonna set breakpoint again on this line and run debug. And here I jump line by line. So this is clear, line by line, boom, line by line, perfect. So I'm jumping like the way the code executes. I'm telling it, okay, now jump to next line, execute next line. So this is next line. So now we learned two things. First is jump to the next breakpoint, the first one, and this one is jump to the next line, So let's review the third one. Third one is step into, step inside of some function. Okay, how this is used. So we are on line 2, and here we have function isProductValid. IsProductValid, and we want to step inside of this function. So we want to get here, but we don't want to set a breakpoint here, right? So we just want to step on this line 10 from here. And here I click step into the function. So step inside the function. I stepped into the function, and now I'm on this line. And now from here I can jump to next line, and next line will be this return true. Okay, return true, and then I hit again step over, and it returns. So it returns from this function, and then from this function it goes to this line. So this function executed successfully, and then it jumps to the next line here, to the sum. Next line, next line, next line. So this is simple. And here again, if I'm on this line 2 and I want to step inside of isProductValid, boom, I can step in. And now the next thing I can do is I can step out. Step out if I'm inside of this function, but I don't want to jump through this function anymore. Like I don't want to stop the debugger on any of these lines, right? I don't want to stop, I just want to exit this function. So in order to exit this function and jump to the function that called this function, so I don't want to jump to any of these, I click step out. Step out is step outside of current function and go up. So I was on this line, I clicked step out, and it didn't stop on any of these lines, and it just went executed this code and then went here and stopped on this line for the debugger. All right, and yeah, here I'll just hit continue and finish the code execution. And two more things here you could have noticed is the green one is for restarting. So let's say I am on bread right now. I click, like I go through debugger, so some code executes. And now I want to restart the script. I want to restart this whole script. I hit restart, and then again, I'm on the second line with the product bread. Let's say I hit again continue. Now I have milk. Milk is the second execution of this function. I hit milk, and now from this point I want to restart the script. I'm restarting again. I have bread. Bread is the first function that's called here. All right, and the last thing is stop. So this is very intuitive. I just stop execution at any point of time. So at any point of time, I can jump somewhere, and then I want just to stop code execution. Okay, this one restart, stop. Okay, so let's sum it up. First thing is jump to the next breakpoint, like jump to the next breakpoint, like this. Then next thing is jump to the next line, jump to the next line. Then jump inside of the function. So if I am on line 2 and I want to step inside of this function, I can click step into and it will get inside here. And then the last thing is step out of. So I'm in some function and I want just to finish executing this function and jump outside. Jump outside to the function that called this function, current function. And I just do it with the step out. Restart and stop. Pretty intuitive. All right, so this was stepping through the code, and now next thing we'd like to learn is inspecting variables and evaluating expressions. All right, so again, setting some breakpoint, let's say over here, running my code. And now in order to inspect variables, I can do this here on the left. So I can see what are the values for the variables that I have in this function. So in this function I have product and product has bread, price, and tax percent. And here on the left I can see all the values of the objects or variables in my current function. And also I have sum. Sum is undefined right now. So I'm here, sum is not undefined because this calculation hasn't been executed yet, right? And now if I step over to the next line, we see that the sum changes. Sum is 60. And we are like, okay, so there is something wrong with this calculation. So we have price 50, we have tax percent 10, and then the sum is 60. So there's a bug in our code, and we look at this line and we're like, okay, so there is some bug here. Let's try to evaluate this in debug console. So here we go down and we paste this code and it says 60. So we're like, okay, this is not what we want. We want to have price not plus tax percent, but we want to have price multiplied by what? We want to have price multiplied by tax percent. Okay, so let's evaluate this. 500. 500 is also not expected, so we're like, okay, right. The calculation for taxes should be like this. So we have tax price. So we have product price plus product price multiplied by tax percent. Okay. And we forgot something. We see like, okay, 550 is not what we want. We actually want 55. And we figure out, okay, we forgot that if we multiply this, then we have to divide tax percent by 100. Okay, we do this and we're like, okay, so what did we have? We had bread with price 50, tax percent 10. So the sum should be 55. And we are like, oh, okay, this is the code that we need. And we can copy this over from debug console and we place this code here. We place this code here and let's rerun the script. We rerun the script. Let's set breakpoint on this line with the sum. And we see that the sum is 55. So this is what we expect, 55, right? For bread. Then for milk, we expect 25 plus 10% out of 25. Yeah, 27.5. Okay, so this is what we expect here. Perfect. And for the egg, we see that egg price is 5, tax percent is minus 10. and return value is 4.5. Okay, so egg price was 5, then tax percent minus 5. So we figure out there is something wrong with the egg tax percent. And we decide to, let's add some validation here. So let's add here tax percent or tax percent less than 0. So if tax percent is less than 0, then it will return false, so product is invalid, and we return the price 0. Okay, let's set breakpoint here, rerun the code. Okay, and for the egg, we see that for the egg, when we got tax percent minus 10, it calculates, it like decides that the tax percent is not valid. So actually, let's set breakpoint here. Let's rerun again. So for the egg, again, it gets to this condition, and this condition is true. So it gets inside of this block and returns false. So it says that product is not valid. Not valid, don't do any calculations on this product. And then we hit continue to next breakpoint and return 0. So for the egg, the price will be 0. And this is also not something that we expect. Like, let's say, let's, I don't know, throw an error here. Throw product is invalid, like this. Okay, let's run the code. Okay, we got to this line. Let's execute. Okay, and we see that it has thrown an error here. Yeah, just love catching this line. Okay, error product is invalid. Okay, we realize that product is invalid. And now let's edit the egg. Let's edit the egg and let's set tax percent 10. So for the egg, tax percent is 10, rerunning the code. Okay, calculation was correct. Perfect. And again, we wanted to evaluate our code. Evaluate, removing these breakpoints, run again. And we see, okay, for bread 55, we check here on the left, everything looks correct. For milk, everything looks correct. For egg, everything looks correct. Perfect. All right, but like, debugging and running code like this doesn't guarantee that we have no bugs in this code, because of course we do. For example, like if this thing throws error, yeah, there are a lot of issues with this code. Like I don't want to waste time on that for now, but yeah, just I think it's enough for debugging. Like it's simple code and it's enough for debugging, but this is definitely not production ready code. Okay, let's move to the next thing. So we just inspected variables and evaluated expressions. Evaluate expressions is something that we did here in debug console. So here, down here, we did some calculations, right? So we have access to everything here and we can do some calculations right in the console. So the code is here. We stop it with the breakpoint and then we can do some calculations in the console, and then if we like fix something and we realize, okay, this is the right code, we can place it in the right place. Another thing we have is watch. So watch is similar to this thing variables, where we can just see what's inside the function at the moment. What are the variables and objects that we have. But this thing watch is similar, but in watch we can also do some calculations. So in watch we can add this code, let's say. We can add this code just to calculate the percentage. Okay, so we've added this code and we see like this is the percentage. And this thing will change dynamically also. So this calculation, so here we have just the values like the values in the function, but we don't change them. We can just see them here, right? We can just see them here, and here in watch we can actually do some calculations like this. So we do some calculations and we see that the result is 5, and this will dynamically change. So whatever calculation we have here, it will dynamically change. Okay, so here for milk the tax percent is 2.5, right? This is what we calculated in this watch. So pretty much the same thing as we can do in the debug console for evaluating expression, we can do with the watch. If there is some variable that we constantly have to check, or some calculation that we constantly have to check while we are debugging our code. Next thing is conditional breakpoint. Okay, perfect. So let's go again to our code. So here, remember, we called this thing 3 times, this function, I mean, calculate total price 3 times. And let's say we set breakpoint on this line, and it will run 1 bread, 2 milk, 3 egg. So 3 times, it ran 3 times, it stopped on this line. But let's say we want to debug only milk. So we don't want to stop the breakpoint for bread and for egg. We want to stop only on milk. For that we have a feature called conditional breakpoint. So we can set some condition, and when this condition satisfies, then it will stop. So if it satisfies, if the condition satisfies, it stops at this line. So right click here. Let's do what? Edit breakpoint, right? We can either edit breakpoint, or we can remove breakpoint and then right click conditional breakpoint. So conditional breakpoint, and here we can do the following. So product name, and we want to stop on milk. So equals milk. So if product name equals milk, and here I hit enter. Boom. So this is conditional breakpoint. Let's rerun this thing. And you see it stops on milk. It stops on milk, and when I continue, it just finishes. So this is the conditional breakpoint. Here I call this function 3 times, but I have only 1 breakpoint, and I have set it to stop only when product name equals milk. So this is what happens. So it stops on milk on this line. So this is what conditional breakpoint is for. This is useful when one function is called from, let's say, many places with different arguments. So here we have the same function called 3 times and with different arguments. And we can decide when to stop, when to hit this breakpoint. We can do this with conditional breakpoint. All right, moving on. So Playwright debugging extension. Finally, let's move to the Playwright. So what do we have here? So Playwright, cool, some test here for create order. And let's hit this run and debug. Oh, no, we don't need run and debug here. We can just do the right click here, and we can debug test. So these are the options that Playwright extension gives us. So let's hit debug test. Should I set breakpoint here? Okay. So it runs the test. You don't see that because it's here on another line. Oh, sorry, on another screen I have it. Okay, so you see, I set the breakpoint here, and what happens? We see the same debugger in Playwright test, the same debugger that we saw just in normal JavaScript file. We see the same debugger here. So we have options to jump to next line, continue to the next breakpoint. Let's say I want to continue to next breakpoint. Okay, so there's something happens. Okay, it fills out the form. Perfect. Actually, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this. Yeah, let me do it this way. All right, so here, so again, it stopped on this line. And now I have this debugger, small window. And now, yeah, I set breakpoint here. Boom, it clicks on this thing, on submit billing details, and then goes to this line. So the same thing that we had in normal script. And also I have an option to set breakpoints in my page objects or page components, wherever. Let's say I want to successful payment detail component. Okay, let's have here payment detail component, and yeah, I just want to set breakpoint somewhere over here. Place order. Okay, place order. So this is the thing that I'm gonna hit. Where is my test? Okay, small window, not very. Place order, fill card details. So I want to jump inside of fill card details. So I hit play, continue. I jump to this breakpoint, and here I can step over line by line. Boom. So line by line. Fill out card number. So like this. Hop. Fill out card number. It jumps to this line. Okay. So, and I go through the test, through the code, line by line. Look, it clicked on this thing, that it will fill the card number like this. Perfect. Then it jumps to the next line, expiration date. Then here, and line by line, you see here on the right, it changes, it calls the Playwright methods and changes the browser. Boom. Okay, so this function has finished, fill card details. I hit continue to next breakpoint. And next breakpoint is place order, because this is the next function that we had in our test. So I was inside of this fill card details. So this one has finished, and now I'm jumping to the place order. Place order. Okay, let's control inside of place order, and it will just click the place order button. Let's do it quickly. Boom. And now I'm on a third success screen. So if your test fails, you can easily run debugger. Let me stop it here. You can easily run debugger with right click here on this panel and debug test. This is all you need to run the debugger in VS Code for Playwright tests. All right, and what other options do we have here? Let's hit debug again. Let's hit debug again. Okay, again, my window is opened over here. All right. Oops. And what do we have here? So here we have the same, like if we would have some variables here, let's say, I don't know, I want to do some calculations. I don't know, sum equals 6, 7 plus 8, like this. Let me rerun the test again. Okay, where's the... I'll just close this one and rerun again. Debug test. Okay, so it stopped on this line, and here I have some variable and I can see it here on the left, the same thing. For watch, I can do the same, like I can watch some specific variables here and do some calculations on them, etc. By the way, here you can temporarily disable breakpoints. So let's say I want to disable breakpoints in my page component. So I disable breakpoints in my page component, and yeah, maybe I'll disable this breakpoint, so it becomes gray. When I disable, it's not completely removed, but it will not stop here. So I can still have this breakpoint, but like it will not stop on this line. So you see here it will jump to 32, line 32. Yep. All right, so this is for disabling breakpoints. We just debugged Playwright test using VS Code Debugger, and another thing I wanted to show you is page pause. So actually, await page pause. I've already shown you this on previous videos. I'm 100% sure I did, but just want to reiterate again. So here, let's add page pause here. So first of all, let's move the page outside of this block. So before that, I had defined it here, const page, but now I move the declaration of this variable outside of this block. So if I move it here, it will be accessible in the whole file. So it's like a global definition of the variable for one file, for this one file. All right, so here I set await page pause, and now let's see what happens when I run this test. And npx playwright test, and then at the end I have to add debug -debug like this. So let me put this on this slide. Debug. Okay, so when we run tests, we have to set debug. All right, and what happens? So I ran this command. Here I see this browser window, which is opened on my another screen. So pulling it up. All right, so I just executed this command, debug. I have this page pause, and let's see what happens. So when I run it with debug option and the page pause, so it shows me this inspector window, Playwright Inspector, and it stops on this line, on page go to. So from here I have the same options that I had in Debugger. I can resume test, resume, like continue to the next breakpoint, or I can step over, like step to the next line, step to the next line. Okay, now let's say I want to step to the next line. So step into the next line, step into the next line, and now I hit resume, like continue to next breakpoint. And in this case, the next breakpoint is page pause. So page pause is the analog for page pause, same as breakpoint, page pause. Same thing as the breakpoint. And from here again, we can go to the next line, next line, next line. So we can set this page pause wherever we want to, and it will stop the test execution at that place. And we can debug it with Playwright Inspector. So why Playwright Inspector is better than VS Code Debugger in this case? In this case, is because it has the options to, for example, pick locator. So I'm on this line, right? It stopped on this line, and now I'm like, okay, here is some input that I want to get locator for. So I hit this pick locator, this button here, and I can choose some selector. Oh, come on. I can choose some selector. Boom. I've chosen this locator, and here Playwright gives me an option to copy this over into my code. So I can copy this and place it in my code. So what else? What else do we have here? And here we have the record. I'm not sure if I've shown you, like, yeah, I'm sure I did. So we can record some actions on the web page. I don't know, click here, click here, click here, click here, and it records the test for us. So we can, with page pause, we can stop at specific point, we can jump, step through the code, right? And then we can use peak locator or record the tests. Pretty useful feature. And yeah, let me kill this one. Okay, so next thing is Playwright traces. This is just beautiful. Playwright test with trace on. Let's run this same test with traces on. Let me run some other test. Let me run navigation, top navigation test with option trace on. So I'm running top navigation with trace on. Let me open this top navigation. Where is it? Come on, top navigation. All right, so this is top navigation test with trace on. Trace on, and here Playwright suggests us to do the show report. Okay, we do show report, and here when we ran the test with trace on again, remember this one. So here we have an option to click on this icon, and here we can see the trace viewer. Yeah, we've already reviewed this, I guess, in the first videos of this course, but yeah, let's review this again. So here the most important thing that we have is timeline. So on the timeline we can see what's happening in our test, and we can click on the timeline on any point here, and we can see what's going on in the test. So what happened in this test at this point of time, and we can see like each interaction with the web page. So what is it going to click, like how all this looks. So here I just jump through the time codes and I can see what's going on each of these steps. All right, so let's say I want to inspect this action. So this is action locator click, and I want to see what it actually clicked. So locator clicked on this our story button in the top navigation bar. And here I have options action before and after. So action is actually what happened, like where did it click. Before is how the page looked like before this click, and after is how the page looked like after the click. So after the click, the page looked like this. And I'm sure that a couple of seconds later, like these images have also loaded. So again, timeline, then here we can see the actions. Here we can see the action that was executed, and here we can see what happened before action and after action. All right, so what do we have here on the bottom? Let me see. So first we have locator, right? We can select pick locator and then pick some locator here, let's say this one, and then copy this over to our tests. Very useful thing. Then call, this is just some general information what was called, like which action. So this is information about this action and how much time it took. Duration, and wall time, like when it was executed, right? Then the log. We see the logs for each Playwright action. Oh, okay, I'm gonna stop holding the camera. Then errors, we don't have any errors here, perfect. Then console, this is the console log, the normal console log that we have here. So the console log that we have on the page. So this is the same console log, but in the trace viewer. Then the network. Network is the same network that we have in here with the HTTP and not only HTTP requests. All right, this is the network. We can see which requests were made to backend. Some were, yeah, like which images were loaded, like request URL, response, body. So the same thing we can do in normal network tab in Chrome DevTools. All right, and the source is for, like, this is your source code. This is the like Playwright code that in your tests which executed this specific action. Okay, and if you click on this one, this is for the expect. So it expects it over here in the test. Right, so very useful thing. Really recommend you to play with it. Like there is nothing hard with this trace viewer, but it saves a lot of time when you debug your test. One more thing is show trace. So we just used the show report, and we can do the same with the show trace. So show report, and instead of show report, npx show trace, right? Let's do the show trace. It opens up a window here on my other screen. And what does it say? So it says drop Playwright trace to load or select a file. So it says like drag and drop the trace file that you have inside of this window. Let's find some trace file. Where is it? It's in, should be in test results, right? In test results, Playwright report, trace. In test result, and here I have some trace. Here I have some trace, and let me just, okay, I drag it inside of this window. Inside of this window, boom. Drag and drop didn't work. Okay, let me select a file. Select a file. Webstorm. This is where all my projects are. Webstorm projects. Debugging JS. No. Playwright demo. And here I have the test results, and here I have trace. Open up the trace. Okay, it worked. So drag and drop didn't work, but select file did work. Okay, so we ran this command. Playwright show trace. Then we selected the trace file, which is located here under test results, trace zip. And now we can see the same trace viewer here as a separate window, right? We can do the same things here. So why this is useful? Why this command is useful? Let's say you run your tests on remote environment, on CI, somewhere on the server. And on the server, your tests fail. And you want to figure out why do they fail. So you can take the trace from your CI, from the server. You can take the trace of the test, and you can download it, right? You download it from the server on your local machine. Then you run this command, npx playwright show trace. Then you select that file, trace zip, that you want to see, like why that test failed somewhere on CI. And you can place it inside of this select, inside of this select area, like select files. Click select files and just debug your tests that failed on CI. Again, like tests failed on CI, you download the trace file, you run this command, and you like feed this trace viewer the trace that you downloaded. Okay, what else do we have here? I already forgot. Video screenshots of failed tests. Okay, so how do we record videos of failed tests? We go to Playwright config, and here, if I remember correctly, video, yeah, video retain on failure. Okay, so this should work. So it will record videos when your tests fail. But this is not great, because a better option is to do it on first try. Okay, let me remind you again. So what does it mean on first try? So here we have traces. So Playwright will automatically record traces on first retry of the tests. And the same for video. Playwright will record videos on first retry of the test. What does it mean? So let's say your tests run on CI, on the server, and your tests fail. So if your test fails one time, then it will try to rerun the same test again. This is why you have this retries option here. So you have retry if it's on CI, so somewhere on the server, right? If this variable is true, then it will run retry the same test twice. And it will save the trace and video only after first retry. So first test fails, Playwright retries the same test again, and if the same test fails second time, then Playwright will save the files for traces and for the video. Okay, so this is what on first retry means. And then next thing is, like, videos are not really useful. So from video, you cannot see all the details, like the network, the console, which actions were clicked by Playwright, like the code. You don't see anything. So videos are not really useful. The only thing that I can think of why videos could be helpful is if you want to add videos to your bug reports. So let's say something fails and you want to add video for your product managers in the bug report. So this is one use case which I might find helpful to use the video recording. All right. So we are recording, and now bonus for people who are using JetBrains IDE. And if you're not using JetBrains IDE, yeah, you still might want to see how this looks. Yeah, actually at work I prefer using JetBrains, Webstorm, IntelliJ, PyCharm, so all the products from this company, and I really love it. All right, so here we have the same two functions. Yeah, they're called 3 times. We don't need this thing anymore. I don't know what this one is for. And let's run it. So here I can do just right click and hit run. I run it, I see the console with the values. Let's say I want to debug it. I set breakpoint here, and again, anywhere in this file, I hit debug file. Like right click and here debug file, and it stops the execution on this line. Here I have a similar panel. This one is to continue to next breakpoint. This one is to step over, like next line. This one is step inside of some function. This one is finish executing current function and step out to the function that called this one. This one is to view breakpoints. So here I can view the breakpoints that I have in my code. I don't know, somewhere. Yeah, just I have some breakpoints, some are disabled, so I can enable disable breakpoints. I can completely remove them, like delete this breakpoint. Can I? Okay, I just hit delete. Okay, deleted, perfect. So this is the button for viewing breakpoints. Another button is for mute breakpoints. Mute breakpoints is, let's say I have multiple breakpoints and I want to disable them all. So mute breakpoints is just disable all breakpoints. Okay, and I hit resume, like continue. Okay, it finishes the program because all my breakpoints are muted. Let me rerun this again. I can do it like here on the right, run or debug. Hit debug. And again, it ran the program, it didn't stop anywhere. All breakpoints muted. Okay, I unmute them. I rerun again. You can do it with the shortcuts, but yeah, I'm just showing you to see where these buttons are without shortcuts. Okay, what else do we have here? Again, rerun file, the same thing that we saw in VS Code stop program. Yeah, again, rerun. So all buttons are the same. The only difference is VS Code doesn't have mute breakpoints, if I'm not mistaken. Then what else do we have here? Debugger console. So here we can execute some calculations if we want to, like this. Boom. So executed some calculations. Then we can see the console for the process. There is nothing logged here yet. Okay, we ran something. This is the first log for the bread, and now we're on the milk. What else? Variables, very important one. Here we can see the product price, like the same thing that we saw in VS Code on the left, the same thing we can see here, like the local variables in this function. And we can also add here evaluate expression, or add and watch. Okay, let's watch something. Let's watch this thing, the calculation of this thing, and result 25. Can I rename this? Remove all watches, rename, I don't know, can I? Sum equals, yeah, like this I can remember. Okay, doesn't make sense. Oh, so, but it still calculates this, 27.5. Okay, that works. Let me try to resume the program. Yeah, okay, so it calculates this thing, so perfect. All right. Yeah, looks like this one is still a bug, so I'm gonna fix it and rerun again. I'll just mute all breakpoints, rerun the program again, stop and rerun. Okay, I have everything, and the calculations are correct, the expected ones. What else do I have here? Yeah, right, the conditional breakpoint. Add conditional breakpoint, also right click here, and condition, product, name. I want to stop on milk. I want to stop on milk, like this. Yeah, I disable this breakpoint, rerun the program in debug mode. Okay, and it didn't stop. That's strange, not strange because I have mute breakpoints, right? Rerunning again, and I stopped on milk. I stopped on milk, and that's it. This is what conditional breakpoint is for. Boom, that's it, done. All right, anything else I wanted to show you in VS Code Debugger? I guess not. Okay, so let's reiterate again what we learned today. Console log methods, then debugging in VS Code Debugger, breakpoints, stop code at some specific point, conditional breakpoints, stop at specific point, and when some condition satisfies, for example, product name equals milk, then step through the code. We learned how to step line by line. We learned how to step inside of some function during debugging, how to step outside of the function during debugging, how to inspect or evaluate variables, like see the variables and do some calculations while code is running, debugger is running. Then Playwright extension, really great thing. Trace Viewer. Actually, let me edit this one. Trace Viewer. All right. Debugger with Playwright, Playwright extension, Playwright. Then also we learned Playwright Inspector, right? Playwright Inspector. And then just, what else was that? The debugger, right? Just normal debugger. in VS Code. And then we learned how to do the same thing in JetBrains IDE. All these things. Perfect. Like again, I'll repeat this again, but these topics are very important. I mean, this topic of debugging is very important because this is one thing that you learn and it can be applied to any language, any framework, any code editor or IDE that you are using, so just anything. So it's a universal base knowledge that you have to master. All right, so happy to say that today covered 2 topics of this course. And the homework for you is first and most important one is run debugger. Yeah, just go through the code, write a few simple functions, like step inside of the functions, outside of the functions, just get used to debugger. Don't always go with console logs. Just get used to debugger, it's pretty easy, just one button, boom, debugger is running. One button here to run, one button here to set conditional breakpoint or just normal breakpoint, that's it. All right, console method, just review them, maybe try to play with them, like there are 5 mostly used methods, most popular ones. Then here are some docs about debugger, Playwright debugging, Playwright Trace Viewer, JetBrains debugging Node.js or JavaScript, and Visual Studio Code debugging. So you might find this useful. Just scroll through them, maybe you'll find something else what I haven't mentioned today. Yeah, and the most important one, just run debugger. All right, comments on, not sure what the next topic will be, but we'll see. Learn JavaScript, guys. So learn JavaScript if you want to code in Playwright, Cypress, wherever next framework will be in 2, 5, 3 years. So if you know JavaScript, you don't care which framework to use. Like for good engineers, like learning a new frameworks takes, I don't know, for automation is just maybe in 1 week you can feel comfortable writing tests using new automation framework. So just learn the basics, learn JavaScript, learn how to debug your code, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.